Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Before we get into the video, I just want to let y'all know I'm a very blunt type of speaker. Therefore, if I say anything that might sound offensive or harmful, please let me know because that's the last thing I want to do. Alright, so when it comes to the fear of missing out, I believe it's something that everyone at some point goes through in their life. However, modern society, specifically social media, has amplified that fear over time. I've been a victim to it in the past, and it's gotten to the point where I would literally overthink every decision I made in my life. I could just, have a really good day, be chilling at home, talking with my friends. And then out of nowhere lies the feeling in the back of my mind that someone else out there is living a life more purposeful than me. And over time, I've realized, not only from my own experiences, but from seeing other people experiencing it, is that it's more than just an issue, rather a modern crisis that everyone is going through right now. But it's nothing new. This has been going on since ancient times. In Greek mythology, when Hercules was at the crossroads, he was aware of the fact that choosing one life meant abandoning the other for good. Ancient philosophy has it that our suffering doesn't necessarily come from hardship, but rather the assumption that other people suffer less than us. Many religious prophets would even retreat from their earthly desires because they felt that chasing every experience would dilute the purpose that they were meant to fulfill. So, while the fear of missing out has been around for technically forever, modern day technology has amplified it to the point where our minds can't even comprehend it. Social media, for instance. Instagram is literally a highlight reel. A highlight reel. Being constantly exposed to people's highlights over time leads to us constantly assuming that every second of their life is a Project X party. We always see the best moments of people's lives, but not the worst ones. The lowlights, or the days where they sit at home doing nothing. And we've been there too. We always post the highlights and the best moments of our vacations, but not the days where we sleep in past 12 p.m. Yet, even with our own curation, we still fall for the illusion when other people do it. We forget that everyone else is editing their photos to look awesome and deceiving, just like us. And in that forgetting, the fear of missing out not only persists, but it gets exacerbated as well. We witness these curated glimpses of people living their lives and automatically come to the conclusion that we're behind on ours. And teenagers feel it most. I'm personally not the type of person who parties, drinks, smokes, does drugs, and sometimes I do feel like I'm missing out on my youth years. I spend most of my time home, either chatting with my friends all the time, doing random stuff, and I love every second of it. It's simplistic, but that's the type of life that I guess was meant for me. And not only me, there's people out there who didn't go to prom, and I've heard people ask I just missed out on the quote unquote best night of my life. And quick disclaimer, you didn't. I went to prom in my senior year because I too, just like you, had a fear of missing out. And if I'm being honest, bro, it was like the mosh pit smelled like sweat and fart mixed with deviled eggs. Overall, I did have fun being able to talk with a lot of my friends, seeing people in a place that's not at school. And I was dancing a little bit, so I'll give it like a 7 out of 10 at most. Would I go back though? No. Did you miss out? Absolutely not. These memories that you feel like you're missing out on, they're going to appear in some type of shape, way, or form later on in your life. So don't even worry about that. But back what I was trying to say though, the fear of missing out, it comes from imagination, not experience. The event that you missed out on becomes perfect because you weren't there to see the flaws that it possessed. Humans don't envy the authentic and messy moments. They envy the ones that are edited to deceive them, and they're not real. What makes this fear even worse is when your morals or values collide with social pressures. I've never smoked or done any type of drug in my life, but I'd be lying to you if I said I never had any close calls. In my sophomore year of high school, I vividly remember a friend telling me that in order to have fun, I needed to drink, smoke, and do drugs. And I pondered on that statement for a while, wondering whether or not my values were correct. I've seen people drunk where others would smoke and do drugs. And I'm not gonna lie, there were times where trying it seemed enticing, but at the same time I wondered, why would I have to inflict harm upon my body just in order to have fun? Or why has pleasure been redefined as something that requires numbing rather than awakening? And being surrounded by a bunch of high schoolers who were drinking at ages 15 all the way to 17, it didn't make it any better. I felt left out. So what did I do? I tried alcohol. I took a tiny sip when I was home alone, and straight up, bro, it was ass. It was fucking terrible. I couldn't even finish a fourth of the cup before throwing that shit out. And right at that moment, I came to the conclusion that life can be enjoyed without the usage of substances. However, I don't have a lot of knowledge on the topic of these substances, so please educate me. But the way I see it, if someone has to numb themselves in order to truly enjoy life, I believe that there's a deeper issue that they're not willing to confront face to face. And not only that, but after trying alcohol for the first time, I had a realization. There's probably a bunch of people out there who have tried alcohol, didn't like it, yet they still forced themselves to drink it so that they weren't missing out. And with that realization, another question emerged. Would you rather feel a small regret for saying no, or a deeper regret for betraying your own values just to fit in? Because it wasn't really about drinking or smoking or doing drugs. It was about self-respect. It was the realization that a momentary sense of inclusion is nothing compared to the lifelong strength of staying true to your morals and beliefs. If you need to abandon yourself in order to have fun, that's not fun. That's self-erasure disguised as belonging. You can even tie fashion into this. One day you want to do streetwear, vintage, old money, and it doesn't stop there. So many people try to have these different micro personalities, and over time, trying to keep up with every trend, every aesthetic, every hobby creates pressure to be everything, everywhere, all at once. Social media, it tempts you with so many possible versions of yourself, and it's overwhelming. I've been there. I said this in my last video, but the truth is, trying to embody multiple personalities and identities at once is just another form of self-abandonment, because if everything is there, there's not much meaning attached to it. That's why the fashion analogy is a great example of this fear, because it's not just about clothes, but rather identity instead. Trying to keep up with every look, trend, and vibe only divides you into a bunch of pieces until you don't even know which ones belong to you. Same thing with hobbies. Instead of doing the very things that resonate with who you are, you feel pressured to do all these different activities so that you don't miss out on what other people are enjoying. But being semi-good at multiple things is nothing compared to mastering the one thing that you truly have a passion for. By choosing the identity that resonates with you, you start to feel more grounded, because the things you love doing become expressions of the self that you've embraced, not the selves that you fear missing out on. And hookup culture too, that even ties into the fear of missing out. According to social media, the more sex you have with people is equivalent to higher superiority and more confidence, and that's bullshit. In middle school and high school, I was fed the idea that the more girls I talked to was a direct measure of my masculinity. So, in order to fit in, I did some dumb shit. I literally followed like 500 girls on Instagram in the span of like 2 days, and I started DMing them because I wanted to build a roster. And that was some of the dumbest shit that I've ever done in my life. Because beneath that whole bravado of masculinity, there's a thick layer of insecurity that not a lot of people talk about. Lots of people, including myself, have the notion that they're missing out on fun sex and endless girls. But in reality, what they're missing out on is clarity about what they truly want in life. Just like drinking and smoking, the temptation often has less to do with desire and more to do with validation. There was a point in time, especially in high school, where I felt like I was missing out because I was a virgin. And that feeling back then is what led me to DM all those girls with the sole intent of trying to fuck. And yeah, I had no morals back then. But the truth is, sex without morals is just another form of self-erasure. These random hookups don't mean anything beneficial. What it means is that you traded your values away for 5 minutes of pipe game with someone you don't even know, all because you didn't want to miss out. Having self-respect doesn't mean abstaining from something forever. It's the recognition that fulfillment is met not by conquest, but by true, genuine connection. You're not missing out on intimacy by taking things slow. What you're doing is you're protecting it until the moment it actually matters. In short, you're not missing out on sex due to your morals. You're waiting until both sex and your morals align, which for most people is marriage. So don't worry about missing out on hookup culture. It doesn't mean anything good for you in the long run. And if my advice isn't credible enough, you can resort to other credible sources, such as spiritual and psychological teachings. The Bible talks about staying true to the journey that God has planned out for you, rather than trying to do things that don't align with your path just in order to not feel left out. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 11 through 12, Paul says, "Do all you can to live a peaceful life. Mind your own business and earn your own living, as we told you before. If you do these things, then those who are not believers will respect the way you live. and you will not have to depend on others for what you need. In Proverbs chapter 4, verses 25 through 27, it states, "Keep your eyes on the path and look straight ahead. Make sure you are going the right way and nothing will make you fall. Don't go to the right or to the left, and you will stay away from evil." For those who don't believe in the Bible, we can resort to modern psychology as well. Numerous studies on well-being point to the same message, and it's the fact that people who practice self-alignment and intentional living report higher levels of happiness than those who chase external validation or novelty for its own sake. In other words, stop looking out for meaning. The life you're meant to live can only be found by returning to yourself, not running from yourself. Now, when it comes to staying true to your journey, I want to clear some things up. There's absolutely nothing wrong with trying things for yourself. The point of this video wasn't to forbid you from navigating through new experiences. It was to advise you about the risks that come with the fear of missing out and how to not let that fear take you down a path that wasn't meant for you. Exploration, as we know it, is part of being human. Curiosity is necessary, as it's what pulls us towards those new experiences so that we can understand what they mean for us personally. And there's no shame in that. But the key isn't whether or not you tried something, it's why you tried it. Because intentionality is what separates self-discovery from self-betrayal. And part of intentionality is balance. If you venture into a new experience with an honest mind and clear intentions, you're not losing yourself. You're learning about yourself. And if you discover that you don't like certain crowds or environments, that's perfectly fine. What matters is that you tried. And now you know with certainty what aligns with your values and what doesn't. Every experience that you do not resonate with will simply get you one step closer to the ones that you will resonate with. Trying something and realizing that it's not for you isn't missing out. It's refinement. It's the process of finding out what is truly meant for you. So remember, growth happens in different ways, which is exactly why you should embrace the path that God chose for you. Rather than wondering whether or not people are happier than you, ask yourself what your definition of happiness is. Or rather than worrying about whether or not you're living your life correctly, ask yourself if you're being present for the life that you already have. Because the truth is, you're not missing out on life. What you are missing out on is the realization that you're exactly where God intended for you to be. And God has never made a mistake. So if God's never made a mistake, surely you're on the right path, right? The fear of missing out, in my opinion, it's simply a misunderstanding of human nature. No one on earth is complete. You missing out isn't a tragedy. The tragedy is believing that missing out is a tragedy. You cannot live every life, nor can you experience every moment. What you can do is embrace the life and moments that you were gifted with. You can choose the paths that align with what you truly value. And once you realize that your true mission is to fulfill your path and not the world's, that's when the fear of missing out evaporates. I appreciate y'all watching the video. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I would appreciate it if you guys share the video as well. But other than that, y'all have a good one.